So I read 8 books in 21 minutes. Kind of, sort of, let me tell you how I did it because I read 21 minutes per day during the Read 21 and 21 challenge. And so this is it is more like slow reading rather than speed reading. And I want to introduce you to the 8 books that I read. My name is Maya D, and I like reading books on dance, education, and dance and education. So let's get into this. Book number 1 was this one right here. I'm going to go through and I'm going to give you like 1 or 2 words for every book and then my thoughts on that book. So let's see if we can do this. Dance and Pedagogy for a Diverse World. And I know I picked this book up, one, because that's my auntie right there. And I'm actually in this choreography, like over there, you can't see me. I'm actually in this choreography, but this book has nothing to do with that choreography. So I wanted to see what was inside of it. So my biggest takeaway was simplicity. I think that this author does a really wonderful job of simply stating how you can make your curriculum, your dance curriculum, more inclusive with just little things. Like, for example, looking at ballet as a form of storytelling, and then how you can use that same method to look at other forms. So simple ways to make your your dance curriculum more inclusive was the thing that you get from this book right here. Now, book number 2 is one from one of my favorite people, and that is BDG, Brenda Dixon Gottschild. So this is The Black Dancing Body from a geography, right? So I'm gonna just leave it at that because some people might be a little sensitive about language. My takeaways from this book, if I had to describe this in 2 words, I would say intense geography. Intense geography, because what this book does is not only talk about views of what it means to be Black dance, what Black dance could possibly be, but it does this wonderful geography where it starts at the hair and works all the way down to the feet, and you get these first person narratives from some really amazing dancers and dance historians about these body parts that are talked about in so many different ways. So it might seem like, how deep can you go into hair? But yeah, how deep can you go into hair? And how deep can you talk about the booty? It gets deep. So not only do you have these first person narratives of these people talking about these body parts, but you also, BDG does a wonderful job of connecting it to historical experiences. So we talk about Sarah Bartman. And for those of you who are not familiar with Sarah Bartman, that was a woman who experienced some not so great atrocities centered around her booty, also known as the Venus Hottentot. So they're going to get into this in this book. So get into this one. Book number 3 was a very light read. This was Dance Adventures and Study Abroad. That's how I would explain this book, Study Abroad. A number of people like to have study abroad experiences. I know as an educator, I encourage my students to have study abroad experiences. I feel like you learn more about yourself when you get to experience yourself in a community that's not of you. So I always encourage them. And because dance is so different, there's so many different techniques. So I always encourage my students to study abroad if possible. And what I like about this book is that it deals exactly with that. You get these, once again, first person narratives of dancers being in different spaces. And I felt like sometimes the study abroad experience is like, oh, it's going to be so deep and it's so life-changing and all of these things. But in this book, you're going to get what it really looks like and feels like to study abroad, right? Those not so butterfly experiences, but that are still wonderful learning moments of how you have to sometimes be humble. Know that you're not the savior going into these spaces. Know that you are the learner going into these spaces, and things like you might be learning from somebody that you feel is way younger than you. So that's another one. So the takeaway from this one was wisdom is not dictated by age nor place. This was you should get this one too. My next read, I got a computer over here that has them listed so I remember which order I read them in. So that was book number 3. And book number 4 is, wait. Book number 4 is this one, Hot Feet and Social Change. So this is a collection of stories, and that was great because it felt like you could break it up. One, so if I were to have 1 or 2 words for this book, I would say charge to make change. This book includes so many dope and amazing dancers, but like amazing stories about these dope and amazing dancers or dances that I've never heard of. But also this charge to write about the dance as a dancer, because some people that write about these forms are not necessarily versed in them. And what that means is going back to it as a dancer, as a dance historian, as a practitioner, it doesn't always have the details that I need in order to really understand that dance and for that dance form to come into the future. So one of the biggest things I took away from this book was that charge to make change. How can we change the way that dance is recorded and passed on in the future? Charge to make change. The next book is, scrolling down my list. So this one, I love this book. Okay, wait, let me get back. The title of the book. So the title of the book is Tales from the African Dance Floor. So real life, that's going to be my takeaway from this book. That's what I want to say this book does. I'm someone that has studied West African dance forms for several decades now. And I feel like sometimes when I'm teaching these things in the class, I hear myself saying things and I'm like, they being my students, they probably are like, yo, she is making that up. But in this book, me and the what is the word? The writer of this book do not know each other. So it was freaking amazing that some of the experiences that I've talked about, like the crocodile part, read the book to know more about the crocodile part, were in this book. So this is kind of like a letter to someone who is stepping into studying West African dance forms. It's like a guide, but written as a letter. Hey, if you're preparing for class, this is what you want to pack in your bag, and this is what you're probably going to see, and don't be surprised if this happens. So it's a really nice love letter that I felt like helped my students to better understand, my university level students to better understand what it's like to take a West African dance forms class in community, because there's a big difference between the academic learning space and the community learning space. So I felt like this helped to give students that information and it not just be coming from my mouth, but from another writer. The next book is, I think it's this one, Dance on the Historically Black College Campus. Did I say that right? Dance on the Historically Black College Campus. Interesting enough, my takeaway from this book is marketing. So it does give us wonderful history about the development of the HBCUs, and I also felt it leaned into why HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, are still relevant in today's world. But one of the things that I really took away from this book was marketing, because the writer of the book is going through navigating, finding the correct college, correct meaning the most appropriate, the one that fits her little ones. And marketing comes up in that space. So as someone who is working in a university, who's working at a HBCU, who's working in a dance program, one of my takeaways from this was marketing, like how to put your information for your dance program where where your actual audience is, and what does that mean? Who are you talking to? How are you talking to them? How are you reaching out to them? And also, how are you archiving it, right? It also delves into the archives of information. So marketing and archiving, I guess, would be my takeaways from this one. Let's go with this one right here. African Dance in Ghana, Contemporary Transformations. So, contemporary. That's going to be my word for this book. Contemporary in that I think at times it is easy to think about Africa as this stagnant continent, and stagnant traditions, and speaking of it in the past, and not so much speaking of what's going on right now in Africa, what's going on right now in those dance forms. This book does a wonderful job of giving you history that speaks past colonialism and into contemporary spaces. So it talks about the development of some of the national ballets, the theories about that, beautifully spoken about how dance and art is powerful and nation building. And then it goes in to tell you about how these traditional forms were revisited, revitalized, and used to build that feeling of connection to nationality. So thinking about it like this, in West African countries, there are, and all over the world, but specifically talking about like in Africa because of this book, there are multiple ethnic groups. So you can belong to an ethnic group. And then when you have the countries developing post-colonization, and the countries getting their independence, we have these countries developing, like Ghana, for example, right? And there's this wonderful intentional plan to use the arts as a way to build nationalism, so that we have the ethnic groups coming together and creating these national ballets. And in national ballets, they're performing the dances from they're representing different ethnic groups. So you have this one company that represents different people, right? But also represents this country as a whole. So this idea of we're beautiful, we're wonderful, and some of that beauty and wonderfulness lives in our differences. So what a wonderful way to celebrate the differences that we have and how those differences make a unified country, right? It's amazing. It's amazing. I ended with this book right here, African Dance, an Artistic, Historical, and Philosophical Inquiry. And philosophical, that's the word, philosophical. So if we go back, this book is edited by Dr. Kariamu Welsh Ashante, our wonderful ancestor and dance historian at this point, and so was this one. This book is the predecessor. And initially, I felt like, did it make sense to go to read this book after this book? Absolutely. Because this book gives you the social aspect. So what is dance in relation to social and political events? How does it connect there? How is it used as a bridge forward? How has it changed and evolved? And I feel like this one went more into the philosophical aspects of the dance forms. So yeah, that's it. It went more to the philosophical aspects of the dance form. So these are the 8 books that I read, 21 minutes at a time. And I learned so much. It completely revitalized my teaching career. I felt like I had different things to talk about with my students. I also felt like I had wonderful conversations with some of the authors or people. Surprising, like I didn't even know that some of these people had written things in books, and that open us up to another discussion. 8 books, 21 minutes at a time. 21 minutes can change your mind and change your life. Stay tuned for my next video or you can like kind of look at some videos. I have a video for each of these books. I have a playlist for each of these books. So you can certainly go deeper into these books, and remember to leave comments, right? Because while I don't know everything. I'm going to say that I don't know everything, but I do feel like if we talk to one another, we can all get stronger and better. And that's what it's about, being better tomorrow, right? So that's all I got for today. Hope to see you soon. Take care.